what I hear a lot that I wish is never used is you're so sensitive, you're too sensitive. No, they're not. You're wired with empathy and compassion. You care, you feel that deeply. Those are the greatest strengths on the planet.
On this episode of Spill the Tea with LLIB, we have the incredible Kat Williams. So Kat, can you share with our listeners more about your business and the unique aspect that sets it apart?
I surely can. So I'm Kat Williams, founder of Building Your Confidence Limited. And it's all about, so the most important factor I've found throughout my career is people's confidence and self-belief. So I describe what I do as kind of bookends. I do deep work as a clinical hypnotherapist, one-to-one, and I'm a keynote speaker as well. And my sessions are all around the 5 pillars of confidence that I've developed that spell the word build. So the B of the build kind of program stands for be self-aware. So that's about emotional intelligence, mental health, resilience, well-being, that kind of thing. The U stands for utilize your natural strengths, because I'm a strength psychology coach as well. So that's about that nature aspect. I believe we all arrive with everything we need within us. We're all natural geniuses. And when you discover the natural personality strengths, things like naturally creative or empathetic or detail orientated, it's just a game changer. The I stands for I'm okay, you're okay. So my original journey about 20 years ago now, well, actually from the age of 8, but that's a whole other story, was into the world of relationship therapy. So my mum was a relationship counsellor from when I was 8. So everything, I believe that confidence can be great if you're in your own bubble, but one person says one thing or something happens and it's like that bubble gets popped. So that talk or session would be I work with couples, or I go into schools and I talk about bullying, positive relationships, dealing with conflict. That would be I'm okay, you're okay. The L stands for lead your mind. So as I said, I'm a clinical hypnotherapist. The mind is the most powerful thing we have, the most complex thing in the known universe we don't even fully understand yet. There's so much more research to be done. So the potential you have by leading your own mind is the greatest potential any of us have. And the D that I'm actually going to focus on more today actually is develop your voice. Because the number one fear, we're only actually born with 2 fears as human beings, a fear of falling and a fear of loud noises. Everything else is learnt, but the number one fear in Western societies is a fear of public speaking. So I talk a lot as a speaker about how I've overcome a fear of public speaking, and I do a lot of one-to-one work with, if you're a business owner, everybody needs to speak in public, whether that's on the phone, to somebody or to an audience. And if it's that number one fear, I really love helping people overcome it.
I feel really seen.
I love that. I think it's so empowering to know actually that there's only 2 fears that you're born with, and everything else is what you've created through that learned experience over time. And that's actually just really empowering in itself, that no, like I have 2 main fears. I will definitely be telling my children about that, because they get into that stage where they become fearful of everything.
Where's it come from? Yeah. And that's all, all that root cause work that I do, who's put it there. And that's where my fear of public speaking, I've overcome it personally. Yeah. Something put it there that I might tell you about in a minute. Yeah. And if you know where it's come from, knowledge is power. And then you take it out.
Absolutely. I'm still massively on my public speaking journey. I think it's been since we started Leading Ladies. And believe it or not, when we used to do our events, I used to take the pictures at the back, and Cal used to host all the events the whole way through, like on her own with the guests. And I used to just, I'm doing social media. That's really important. Like at the back, like I didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to be heard. But I just knew that this platform was going to grow and grow and grow. And it's not something like what you just said. It's not something I was born with. It's something that I've developed a sort of phobia of what other people thought of me. And it was actually the thoughts of other people that was holding me back. And I just learned to just not give as much energy to them. And I'm still on that journey now. I still get butterflies and I still go, I can choke up a little bit. But yeah, every day is a learning journey for me. So what inspired you then to start this? Like, what's your journey behind this business?
Well, it really is about knowing that so it started with a couple of stories actually I'll share with you. There was a moment when I was on the strength psychology course actually, and they said, introduce yourself and why you're here. So I said, I'm Kat, and I've been a therapist for a number of years, and I'd written a book at that point. And I said, I know that the root cause is not feeling good enough, that's what leads to things like anxiety and everything else. So I'm here for a great tool to learn. And the tutor, who was called Graham, said, well, that's all lovely, Kat, but why are you here for you? And I thought, when, as we do, I don't know, I didn't really have an answer. I thought, well, I've just moved back from Canada. I'm a military wife, had 2 small children in tow. We'd moved house. Well, I moved 16 times in 18 years. I'd kind of talking about sort of losing yourself. Anyway, so in that moment, I thought, and then there was a little spark of something, and I was sort of taken back to a time when I'd actually applied to be head girl. So I was just in a school, normal comprehensive, and I'd gone up to my form teacher and I said, I think I'd like to be head girl or apply to be. And she was called Mrs. Emmett, and she went, I'm not sure you've got what it takes, Catherine, she says to me. I think they're looking more for someone like Caroline who's got the confidence to stand up in church at Christmas, and you'd have to speak to the whole assemblies. I'm not sure you've got what it takes. And so in that moment with Graham, I kind of realised I want to make a difference one to many. I want to be able to stand. Like I did believe I could do it at 15, but I believed a form teacher that had known me for years. So that put in a fear of speaking, you're not enough. So back with the strength psychology, I said, I'd love to leave today knowing I could be a good enough speaker and make a difference, not just one-to-one, but one-to-many.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible.
I think it's the power of somebody else's words over your life, and the power that we give to those words on a long-term basis without even thinking about where they've come from or taking the time to think of those root causes, isn't it? One person in authority has stopped you from speaking, and pursuing that dream of being head girl, and then many other dreams possibly since where you've thought, oh no, like that's not for me, that's more for someone like her or more for them.
Well, there was another moment when at least I overcame it, because I then had to go and give a presentation a couple of years later, and it was to go on a gap year opportunity. And I remember it's like another story I sort of tell, that I met this lady on the way to the interview. I'd come all the way from Wrexham on trains and buses, but I had in my mind, and my parents had said, it'll be full of public school kids, and the likelihood of you getting that opportunity and going out for 6 months to teach in Africa, don't get your hopes up. But this lady, she was chatting to her literally at the bus stop, and she said, gosh, that surprised me. You've come all this way. What do you want? Have you always loved Africa? And I said, oh yeah, I've loved it since I was 10. I want to teach music. I've already got these recorders donated, and even if I don't get there, I'll just donate them. And she sort of said, no offence, love, but that presentation that you've just, showed me there, that you're going to talk about the animals of Africa and the mountains and things, don't do that. Be authentic. Tell them the story that you've just told me. I've not heard someone that doesn't have confidence. I bet you're the only kid that's come all the way on your own. And she was absolutely right. I got to the interview. There's the kids in all their, no offence, but, fancy blazers with fancy badges, and the parents all in the waiting room. And so I just told my authentic story. And that's my favourite part now about, I believe the best speakers from the learning I've done over the years to become a speaker is that the speaker that's on stage should be the same person you that would be standing at the bus stop or having a cup of coffee or a cup of tea. Those are the best speakers. You don't turn into someone else and say, I've got this lovely presentation. So I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose. And I did get out to Africa, and I was the only Northern comprehensive kid. And it's because I just put the presentation away and just
you
said,
were meant to meet her.
I read Willard Price's African Adventure when I was 10, and I need to go to Africa and I've got recorders and I want to go.
Wow. That's incredible. That woman at that bus stop.
You were meant to meet her.
I know,
she
exactly.
was put there. She was put there just for you.
Definitely. So being a military wife, you said, and you're travelling and moving 16 times.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? That must have been pretty tough.
Yeah, it honestly brings a sense of kind of pride. I haven't regretted a thing. I do believe in things happen for you, you're not to you, and what you gain from it. So it basically led to the book. I wrote a book 12 odd years ago. It's called Stay Calm and Content, no matter what life throws at you. It's based on the Keep Calm and Carry On poster I was not calm. I did not know how to carry on. And so I was asking this question, like, what's this difference? Some military wives seem to be rising through the flames like some kind of phoenix, and others seem like they sort of self-medicated and went to bed, because at that time my husband was on the front line in Afghanistan. So I knew any minute of any day it could be my door that's knocked on. But that kind of energy, I suppose, turned into, well, if I'm feeling like this, I was already working with clients at that point. What are the secrets? And really, the nutshell, it comes down to how are you speaking to yourself in your own mind, you know.
We're both military wives as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So mine was, my husband's had 24 years service.
Gosh.
Yeah, so Afghan,
we're
Iraq,
on about that.
Northern Ireland, sort of all of those, but we didn't ever move around. I stayed with the children in Liverpool.
Yes.
But I met him when he was based over in Germany. So he used to, bless him, drive home to see me from Germany for the weekend.
The things they do, isn't it?
I know, honestly.
And there's something really special about that, which is where you do live with, you know, the hardship, but then that kind of grit and to keep a relationship going. Because we're together, well, it's 20-year anniversary this year of being married, but it was 25 or something.
Yeah. It is hard, isn't it? Like
but we're still in the military, but now we're married unaccompanied rather than the moving, which brings different challenges.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
I think, and I think there's that real sort of interesting piece of, you know, when people haven't lived that life. I used to get all the time when Lee was away or he was on tour, because I mean, obviously they don't just go away to wars and things, do they? They'll be, they'll be deployed. So he was out in Canada for a while, and I think at one point when Jess, our middle one, was very young, she must have been about 4 months. I think that was when he went over to Afghan. He was over there and then he came back, and pretty quickly he was in Kenya and then Canada as well. So he must have missed out on about 18 months of her life, and bless her, he came back and it's like, oh, here's daddy. And it's like this man that they've never met before, you know, sort of coming back in. And but people used to say to me all the time, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you cope. And it's like, but that's life and there's no other option but to either. So yeah, it must have been really interesting for you to see that on camp, that some people, like you say, rise like phoenixes and sort of can really get on and just put the head down and go with it. And then other people you see, you know, haven't maybe got the same coping mechanisms or the same resilience or the same mindset.
Yeah, it's inspired my whole business, to be honest, to kind of go, well, if it can be taught, what do you need to teach?
Yeah.
Because I do believe we all literally, we've got everything we need within us. We're born with natural innate confidence, but what's got in the way of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Wow. So what then do you find most fulfilling about the work that you do?
Well, what makes me different, I know, is because I wouldn't call it public speaking coaching as stuff, but the develop your voice aspect is actually about, my greatest joy is people will say to me all the time, either they'll won't take an opportunity to speak in public, and then they'll say either I can't do that, or they'll say, well, I don't have anything to say, or who wants to hear from me. So the greatest moment is like, they're the people we need to hear more from. I'm kind of like, I will find, you know, it's like gold mining, because they don't realise the beautiful stories and like the heart-centred kind of energy. So it's finding those light bulb moments when I say, you know, say that again. And they say, what do I just said? There's your story. There's your moment. And that is usually when I'm in tears as well. I'm kind of going, blimey, like you've just said that and I'm crying. If you stand up and say that in front of an audience, because my favourite quote in this context of helping people with their voices to say, nobody actually cares what you know until they know why you care. Yeah. And as soon as they know why you care, and that's that light bulb moment. What do you do this for? Why does it matter to you? Now you've got them in the palm of their hand. Yeah. And now they understand that they want to work with you.
Absolutely.
And they don't realise that story is there. It's like gold. Yeah. I say, I'll find it. Don't worry. And then I'll help you to tell it.
It's being relatable as well, isn't it? It's being human. And just one of the things I always say is just be vulnerable. Like allow yourself to be vulnerable. And I just don't think, especially as women, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, and especially asking for support, or, you know, we just don't do that. So no, I love that. If you could be remembered for one thing on the journey ahead, and any exciting plans that you've got for the business, please do share. What would it be?
Well, an exciting thing that's coming up is related to the answer to this question. So I was given the opportunity to do a second TEDx talk.
Oh, wow.
So it's called Your Mind is a Stallion, Learn to Ride It. And because I've learned how to tell stories and I'm a storyteller and I help people to do that, one of the stories that I begin with is a true story from one of my one-to-one clients. I do work with children of all ages and adults, couples, but this particular little boy was only 10. And he came in just saying, I don't know why I'm here, basically. I don't feel that I fit in anywhere. I don't feel good at anything. And he was a little boy called Louis. And I start the TEDx with this story. And when the TEDx has come out and I've been shortlisted for Best TEDx Speaker in something called the Speaker Awards. So it's announced on the 5th of July. So I don't know.
Speaker on
in the top 6, but whether I get the award, I don't know. But to be shortlisted is, incredibly. I nearly said no to the opportunity, as you do, because, you thought, I've given one before and what could I do again? And then you get in your own way. But I thought, no, something's aligned here. I'm going to just say yes. Anyway, so the story of Louis, someone said, he basically saved a bumblebee, he was telling me, or a honeybee actually. And he had a bullied experience because of that, because someone laughed at him. This other kid was kind of like, oh God, how pathetic, you saved an insect. And then people have watched the TEDx, they say, I could imagine Louis working for the National Trust or something. And I'm like, hang on a minute. Why can't Louis be a leader? Louis has courage, like compassion, empathy, the insight and the awareness to save a honeybee at the age of 10 rather than doing something, to hurt it. And I was like, so I want more leaders like Louis. So a lot of the clients I've ended up that have come to me are the ones that the world needs to hear more of. Yeah. They're the ones energized to actually make a difference, but they've picked up the belief when you're very compassionate and empathetic. Most of my clients have those natural strengths, weaving in everything that I do. And then they've picked up the belief if they've been treated in a way that they would never treat someone else. They believe, is that all I'm worthy of? Is it somehow my fault? Have I done or not done something? And then they don't go for leadership positions. They don't speak in public. They don't go for the promotion. So it's like we need more leaders like Louis. That's what my legacy I would love it to be. That the world doesn't need more arrogance, more manipulation, more rebuke. We don't need more of that. We need more kindness, more empathy, and more compassion. If we can get the leaders that are led by that, that's how we can make a difference.
So what advice would you give a parent or a carer with a child who, shows all of those amazing things? Like what language would you encourage parents or carers to be using at home to allow that child to flourish into leadership? Like that teacher who said to you, oh no, I don't think that's really for you. Like what words can be spoken to our young children and young people to just develop that and just give them the confidence to be able to step into that leadership? Well,
first of all, what I hear a lot that I wish is never used is you're so sensitive, you're too sensitive. No, they're not. You're wired with empathy and compassion, and those are the greatest strengths on the planet. So first of all, it would be reframe that nobody's too sensitive. You care, you feel that deeply. Just a quick story. One of the first people that I helped to be free from a fear of public speaking, she'd picked it up because she was so empathetic watching a friend of hers at the age of 4, actually kind of wet herself on stage. We all remember as in primary school how awful that would have been. It didn't happen to her, but it happened, but she felt as if it had happened to her because she was so empathetic. So I'd first of all say that's a superpower. And I think if you do have a child that is very caring, I would simply use that phrase. Those are the strengths we need more of. Use those. Whatever you see that isn't right. Another one example would be courage. I'm talking about a particular strengths test. It's called Strength Scope. So it's just normal words, but I'll see a lot of teenagers that come and go in, it's just not right, and I just have to say it. And that's why teachers might say, this kid's driving me crazy. They're either going to be Prime Minister or they're going to end up in prison because they just have to stand up for what's right. And I'm like, that's brilliant.
My nephew is always
it's a tough strength to have to navigate through school, but damn well celebrate that because I think it's brilliant and don't crush it. It's hard navigating school. Teachers tend to crush courage. It's like, celebrate it, please.
My nephew's always sticking up for other people and standing up for their, and he gets into so much trouble for what's the word called? When he stands up for somebody else, when he believes that actually they're right and they should be heard. And he just, that's the biggest thing. Nothing to do with himself. He doesn't get himself into any bother. But if he thinks it's an injustice,
I love that natural courage, strength.
But then he gets into trouble and then gets a negative on his report. And then it's actually you are just deflating that, all of those amazing characteristics that you've just spoken about. We're removing the kindness and even just the language around like you should be tougher and you should be stronger. And, as a woman, I'm quite happy with being vulnerable sometimes and needing support.
I just think that breeds the leaders that we don't need more of.
100%, yeah.
And I think it is a really important piece, isn't it? That, we're fed by media and by long-term sort of misconception, or that in order to be a leader, in order to be successful, we've got this, the power hungry woman, or, the people who trample on other people to get to the top. And that if you're a really compassionate and empathetic person, you don't want to be, neither can you be that person. And so leadership is almost stripped away from you as a possibility, isn't it? Because you see that in order to be a leader, you have to be bolshy and loud and shout your way over people. And, and if that's not you, then why would you ever see yourself in a leadership role? And
Absolutely.
I think we definitely need more of those people. And I always say to my husband, because he's very much, for Harry, bless him especially, who is sensitive, you need to toughen up a bit, mate. Like, you need to toughen up. And I don't know whether that's come from that military background where they are very, sort of tough and rule orientated. You need to toughen up a bit. And I say to him, Harry's here to change the world. Harry's here to change the world. The world he doesn't need to change for the world. The world needs to change because of him. Yeah. Like, my children are here to move mountains,
Absolutely.
And they will do that through those skills that they've got, through that empathy and through their sensitivity and through the fact that they see other people, they really see them. And you're right, we definitely need more leaders like that, and people in authority who see other people and really notice them.
Yeah. Because that's what we always say about confidence, is that it's not about I'm great.
No.
It's about sharing that and saying, a rising tide lifts up other ships.
Yeah.
That's what confidence is actually about. Who do you lift up? Another favourite quote I love, a strong person lifts up themselves. A stronger person lifts up other people.
Yeah.
That's what the leaders we need. So, yeah.
Definitely.
Just love this conversation.
So what's the mission then? What's the mission? I feel like there's got to be a bigger mission.
People do sort of ask me, is it women that you're developing the voice of? I was like, well, yes, absolutely. But actually, when sometimes it might be the men that are already in the leadership position. So it's more like, I've got a lot of clients more recently that are men wanting to higher positions of leadership because of the people they can bring with them. And I'm like, well, exactly. If you're already slightly ahead, you're the person. If you go higher, think about who you bring into the boardroom. If you've already got a voice at the table, then change the other voices around the table to those that are energized by you. And so it's becoming the mission of, we've got to have the men on board equally that have been told, because this patriarchy thing damages everyone, and it damages, the good, kind men of the world as much as the good, kind women. So that's the mission.
I love it. I'm on board. I'm on board with the mission. So in order to fulfill this mission, and if you could spill the tea with anybody, who would you choose and why?
Well, this person is the person that I quote most often. So I did see this question. I thought, who that's going to be? And she's passed away, but it's the poet and the speaker, Maya Angelou. And so I love lots of her quotes. But the one I've just quoted there about no one cares what you say until they know why you care, or don't know what you know. And another one she says is success and happiness. So I might ask my audiences, what is success and happiness? And of course, if it's teenagers, they might say money and a big car and, I don't know, being famous or whatever. And I say, well, the fabulous Maya Angelou says, success is knowing what you want to do. It's like 3 circles. The second circle is feeling you can do it well. but most importantly, liking yourself and being yourself while you do it. So that's why I love Maya Angelou and all of her wisdom.
Oh, that would be a great conversation.
It would be.
Well, I'd like to go back and ask her, this is my mission. I think it's a shared mission. How am I doing? And is there any advice you could give me? That's why I'd have a conversation with her. Like, what more can I do?
What would be your big dream then for it? What would be your
for the
big
whole
dream?
thing?
Yeah.
It's a big question.
Gosh, that is a good question. I think just to see exactly what you just said a few minutes ago, for it to completely change. I do think that the vast majority of people know what actual natural leadership is, and they know that it is about feeling lifted and it is about feeling seen and heard. So if we'd actually stripped away everything and everyone was saying, well, that's leadership, obviously. If you don't feel empowered and you don't feel safe to feel heard, then you're not in the presence of a leader. Yeah. I'd love that, because then we would have got rid of anyone that actually makes you feel sort of shut down. You'd be like, that's not a leader. They shouldn't be there. Because there's so many examples of people being afraid to topple the people at the top. Yeah. Because they're so manipulative and so loud and so narcissistic, basically. They don't get toppled and they stay there.
Yeah. And I feel that's a really timely one for, our up and coming elections as well, isn't it? That we need relatable leaders as well, who really see people. And yeah, it's difficult to know whether we've actually got any of that at the moment, isn't it? And I think people, we're not to get into a political debate, but how can people vote if there's nobody that they relate to or stand with? And that's, again, our true leadership brings people along on that journey, doesn't it? Not, and authentically on that journey, not with false promises or, what can I do in the moment? It's what can we do long term to make that sustainable change?
Yeah.
Definitely.
100%.
Yeah, difficult one.
Are you ready for your confession of a leading lady?
Oh, yes. Can't wait.
Let's see.
My prop.
I feel like your stomach just did a confession of a
really
leading lady.
Did,
it went on for ages.
It was like, I'm so hungry. Like, feed me some food.
It needs that cake for our
It needs the cake.
Yeah,
we'll have to have a break after you, Kat, and have some cake. You've not just deleted.
I don't know. I don't think I've deleted it. I just went back on it.
And that's the show, guys. We're done. We're done.
Confessions is Cal is rubbish with technology.
Okay,
the unplanned wardrobe malfunction. I feel like I could have done many of these.
Yeah,
could have written this myself. Okay, it was my first day back at work after maternity leave, and I was determined to make a great impression. I wore my most professional outfit, complete with brand new blouse. That's a real tongue twister. Complete with a brand new blouse. As I was confidently walking to my first meeting, I felt a strange draft. Glancing down, I realised my blouse had come undone, and I was unintentionally giving the office a peek at my very practical, very unsexy nursing bra. I quickly buttoned up and spent the rest of the day hoping nobody noticed. Spoiler, they did. And it became the office joke for weeks. I cannot be the only one with a wardrobe malfunction story, right? I know.
Have you ever
any wardrobe malfunctions on your part?
Gosh, I must have done. I'm trying to see if one's coming to mind. Is anything coming to mind?
I had this thing, and I've got a little walk-in wardrobe with a dressing table, and every morning I'll sit at the dressing table and I'll do my makeup and I'll dry my hair if I've bothered to wash it that day. And every time I was wearing beige, I used to come away from the makeup table and then I'd be getting on with everything else. And then I'd see makeup marks, like just randomly, either on my leg or like on a top. And I was thinking, where's this makeup coming from? Like, and I was trying to get it off. You know what you do with like a face wipe or a baby wipe or something like that. I was trying to get it off. And honestly, every time I looked and like cleaned the thing, I could never find what it was actually coming from. I was thinking, is it coming from the makeup? Is it coming from my brush? Am I dropping it on myself every time I wear cream? Like, what is going on? And I still to this day do not know why. And every now and again, I look down at like cream pants and there's a little mark, like a little just makeup mark.
I had a wardrobe malfunction in the classroom when I was teaching. highly embarrassing and also very painful. So I had a pair of wide leg trousers and I was sitting pretty much like this in the classroom. I know it was early years, so they were only 4 and 5. So equally could have been more dangerous for the children, this wardrobe malfunction.
I need to know what this is.
I'd finished like the teaching bit and I'd got up to go and set them all off on their next task. So I uncrossed my legs, took one step forward onto the carpet. It was dangerous. This is the next dangerous bit. Took one step forward and my foot got stuck in the front of the other trouser leg.
Oh, gosh.
I literally went down on the carpet. How I didn't kill someone, poor child or myself, and smacked me chin. On the thing, and all the children, bless them, would just say, "Miss, are you okay? Are you okay?" And I had to be like, "Yes, I'm fine. Just a little trouble with my foot." But yeah, I'd torn the front, got my foot stuck in the front, I'd torn the front of my trousers as well on the way down, and nearly killed a 4-year-old. Imagine telling the parent that. I'm awfully sorry, your child had an accident today. It was squashed on the carpet.
Don't you think those long pants though now, like
dangerous,
the trend, they're so dangerous coming down the stairs though if you haven't got shoes on as well, because your toes can actually curl in.
Well, that's exactly what happened. So yeah, if you are a wide leg trouser wearer, be aware
really careful
of those wardrobe malfunctions. I think I'd have rather flashed the school than killed a child. I know, wardrobe malfuctions.
Has any popped to mind?
No, they haven't, to be honest.
You're going to think about this
malfunctions,
now.
but not wardrobes.
just not clothing.
Yeah.
Well done to have got this far in life with no wardrobe malfunctions.
I love that. Talking about malfunctions, let's talk about how to make a proper cup of tea. So we have a closing tradition on the show, and where we ask our guests, or we invite our guests to share how they make the perfect cup of tea.
Well, I'm going to harness my Northern Ireland mother to tell you the correct version and then the truth. So obviously it would be a pot, and I would warm the pot, and then I'd obviously put, probably loose leaf tea. This was my entire childhood, by the way, obviously loose leaf tea. Then the hot water, then the lovely hand knitted, tea cozy exactly on the pot. Then leave it for exactly 4.5 minutes. Then the milk has to go in the cups first. Northern Ireland mother. Then you have the tea strainer, and then you pour it into the cup. But of course, none of that happens now. But my mother, when she's in my house, is like, that's a mug, that's a tea bag in the cup. You pour in the hot water, you let it steep, you jiggle it around a bit, and you chuck in some milk. But no, that's So now I do it the non-Northern Ireland way, but I'm still the good Northern Ireland girl inside that can do it with the whole pot and the whole. So I do that. When my mother comes round, I warm the pot and have the tea cozy. The rest of the time, I do it completely differently.
Okay, I love it.
Love that.
Sounds like you're a team, Claire.
It does sound like you're a team, Claire, actually, which is quite great, because I haven't had a point for a little while.
No, you haven't. We've had lots of sensible people.
So it's like one each.
Like half a point each. Points if she's a TEDx talker.
I think it's like triple points.
Yeah, I think
that just wipes the whole board. And I'm just
let's
in
not
the
go
lead.
that far.
I love that. Well, Kat, you have been an incredible guest on the show. Thank you so much for sharing your journey.
Yeah, we wish you all the luck in the world with your nomination and in changing the world. Definitely needed. Thank you so much.
Very welcome.
Yay.